You're gonna make 200 grand?
Well, like he's looking at this, right? And he's like, okay,
Hold on, hold on,
like,
hold on. Like, can I do a little interview with you about this?
yeah, okay, yeah, yeah.
What's up, everybody? This is Jeff here. This is one of our students from the Wholesale Cash Connection from our coaching program. And this guy came in and you totally smashed the records in every single way. You're the first person that signed up, got access, and then I didn't see you for a long time. And then I met you once on the calls, and then you come back and you're like, I got a deal, and you actually made money. So you made, how much did you make on the one you just did?
The one I just did was so 10,000 total, and then I split it with a partner that helped me with the lead generation. He's in Toronto, so I ended up going to the property. Originally they wanted over 200, and then I got the price reduction. So then we just ended up closing yesterday actually. So that closed yesterday, so it's a 50-50 split.
No
And then
way.
now I got, yeah. So,
So hold on.
5 grand for 2 weeks, right? Not bad.
So you made $5,000. That's cash that hit your bank account in 2 weeks.
That's right. Yeah.
That's crazy. Because like most times when people are looking, getting into real estate and that sort of thing, even if you're going to do a flip, it takes months to get paid. But you're sitting here and you do 2 weeks of work and you're making 5,000 per week or sorry, 5,000 in 2 weeks. Just
Yeah.
imagine if you could do that every 2 weeks.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like as long as it's a deal and you get it under market value, um, there's margin to be made no matter how big or small. And sometimes the turnaround can be super quick.
Right. What's the biggest takeaway now that you've completed a successful wholesale deal? What's your biggest takeaway from the process? The process.
Um, I think the learning curve can be very plateaued at the beginning, but once you actually see the process and once you actually do the work and commit to it, you see the entire contract process. You talk you talk to the landlord, you figure out their price, you negotiate it. It's a step-by-step process, right?
Yeah.
So once that actually occurs and you gain confidence really quick. And once that proof of concept is in, it feels like I can I can do it myself now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. That's what I find is in the beginning, whenever you're starting to learn a new skill, there's like a grind phase where you're finding your way and you're working hard at it. But I always say it's the law of the first deal. Once you get that first deal kick in, then everything starts to connect. And I think that's what just happened to you. You were just telling me about you already have a second deal that you might have assigned.
Yeah, so this new deal just turned around real quick. Um, I sort of followed your course. Um, I created a Facebook page and I did some ads, but like crazy enough, this one came organically.
Nice.
So from a deal that I posted on Facebook Marketplace through my page, they actually went to my page, went to my website.
Yep.
Um, I got a deal.ca. I have uh, a seller information form. They punched that in, told me, hey, I've got a 300 by 100 lot, looking to offload this. He was asking 500. I looked at the comparables and I was like, okay, well, his asking price is already under what I'm seeing as comparables. Like I better go check this out. And
Yeah.
like I wasn't even prepared for this. Like I responded to the email a week after
Later.
that.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh shoot, what am I doing? Like I called right away. Because I have a kid and like um,
Right.
you know, maybe this can be a part-time thing, but like I can really see the value if you actually make this like a full-time thing,
So
right? So
So as a part-time thing, you got the first deal, you made the 5 grand, and then it looks like you might make 40,000 on this. How much do you think you'll make on the next one?
so it's very possible that if I play my cards right, it's
Yeah.
possible that you could make, you know, more than 50 grand. Like, I'm talking to a retail buyer now,
Yep.
and if he purchases it for what it's been appraised at, um, like we're looking at six figures.
Yeah. So just so everybody knows, what he's saying is he went out and he found a distressed homeowner, and that homeowner sold to him below the appraised value, which means that without doing anything, the person who buys this property is buying equity on the day that they close. And what he's saying is that he got it so far below the appraised. What is it appraised for?
575.
So it's appraised for 575, and you
Yeah.
got it for significantly below that.
Yeah.
And you're gonna be able to wholesale it from what you're saying and make over 100,000, between 50 and $100,000. Do you think it's realistic?
Theoretically, there's also since it's such a big lot,
Yeah,
like the seller was super cooperative. He actually gave me like a survey plan for
right,
severance.
right.
So there's an extra 242,000 appraised value that's untapped, right? So the buyer, the end user could potentially sever off the land, possibly sell it for 242, and whatever's remaining in the house, whether they want to flip it, whether they want to redevelop,
Right.
whatever, it's still, you know, it's hard to judge the ARV, but we're looking at, you know, a good deal still. Like there's a lot of margin no matter what exit the buyer does.
So what you're saying is even if the buyer buys it from you at retail value, even at the appraised price, there's still an opportunity for him to turn around, do renovations, do a subdivision, and double the value of the property essentially, even without.
Essentially.
Yeah. So that's a really big thing is like in this deal, you were able to get it significantly below the appraised value as is. However, sometimes, a lot of times actually, we can get deals that are near the fair market value, but there's so much uplift, so much profit to be made for a flipper, they're still happy to buy them. So that's awesome. And can I ask you a question? So how much actual work? You said you made a post, you responded to an email, and you got that deal. So let's back it up to the first deal because we're jumping a little bit. The first one that you closed, how many hours of work do you think you actually put into it?
Um, so a buddy of mine sent me the deal. He's in Toronto, so he told me that it's in Williamsburg, which is about 50 minutes to an hour drive south from Ottawa. So he wanted me to be the boots on the ground in this transaction. So I ended up going to the seller. They were asking, I believe it was 215 for the property. Um, and the amount of time, I'd say, we're probably talking like between a initial meeting with the seller, doing one walkthrough
Mhm.
with the end buyer. Actually his contractor came. He
Mhm.
saw that it was a good deal, told the end buyer, hey, this is, this is a fixer upper, but it's so cheap that it's worth it, right? Um, and so we did that, writing up the contract and DocuSign myself. We're probably looking at around 4 hours.
So hold on, you took 4 hours to make $5,000 profit.
Essentially, yeah, yeah.
So you're running at over $1,000 an hour right now.
I mean, if you look at it that way, yeah. If you
That's
look
what
at it that way,
that's
yeah.
what your time's worth. That's why, like when I do the numbers, like let's do these other numbers now. Let's look at something else. So what about this second deal you have in the pipeline? How many hours have you put into this one?
So this one, so in terms of actually getting the deal under contract, probably about an hour, right? So, but for me to feel comfortable with putting this deal out, making sure that it's marketable, That probably added on a good, 3 or 4 more hours because I ended up getting drone footage for this one and
Drone
uh
footage, yeah.
a an appraisal and a few walkthroughs. So
Right, just
yeah.
so that everybody knows, what we do as wholesalers is we go out and we find properties, and our job is to make sure that it is a good purchase for somebody for a flipper who's looking to flip properties. They don't have time to do the underwriting and all that. So us as wholesalers, we do the underwriting for the property, and then once we're sure that it's a good deal, like you said, you have to build a marketing package and do a bunch of things to make sure that when you present it to that home flipper, that they can look at it quickly, see, yep, the appraisals are there, the value's there. They see that all the homework's been done and they can make like a split decision, yes or no, whether they're gonna buy it or not on the spot. And that's how we get paid. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
I was
sorry.
just gonna say, like specifically for this deal, there was
Yeah,
a good amount of like leverage points that could turn it into something more for an end buyer, right? Like there's two separate entrances. There's a portion of land, like the house is on one side. Like if this was like a traditional uh wholesale where it's based on like cash flow or rental income and stuff, that would probably be, some wholesalers might not even need an appraisal, right? You can just base it off of the pictures and after repair values, right? But I felt like this one needed a little bit more.
yeah.
Um, so might as well do more because I could potentially end up with all the upsides from
So,
that.
yeah, exactly. So you basically have 4 hours into this deal so far?
Um, So for this one, in terms of negotiating the contract, it probably took me about an hour. I looked at the comparables beforehand.
Mhm,
Um, Went, saw the property, gave him a verbal offer.
mhm.
So uh he was right at 500.
Yeah,
Then I saw some leeway there. He said, he was already sort of laying down for it, right? It was almost like, I know the term is like a lay down.
yeah.
So, um, I let him know we're very flexible, whether you need it closed sooner or later. He was also looking at buying a new property, right? So, um, we wanted to be like sort of I wanted to be that person that would offer that sort of service. And then also make sure that he's aware that he doesn't have to pay, realtor commissions. It's totally off market. It'll be sort of private sale.
Right.
Um, and um, so he went down to 450 right away, right?
Mhm.
And then um, just evaluating condition, right? Because condition is a very important aspect when it comes to wholesaling and making sure that they're aware that it does take a lot of capital to 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 fix up these properties. So he basically agreed that it possibly needs $100,000 worth of work, right?
Yeah,
So from there, um, I offered him a verbal offer of 385.
yeah,
So and then I also gave him a blank contract with the number written in.
yeah.
And I was like, here, I know your spouse is on title. You probably want to talk to her about this. My phone's always open. Just let me know. Um, let me know how you want to proceed. Again, we're here to offer you the speed and convenience,
Mhm.
and make sure that we're your ideal buyer.
Right.
So then, 2 days passed by, or sorry, um, I followed up with him the next day, and then he said, "Yeah, so my wife is looking for around 410." And that's our bottom line, right? But, you know, um what I did was uh I I talked to him. I said, "Hey, I'm going to need to, go back, talk to my investors, see what I can do." So I sent in the contract without speaking to him again. I don't know if it's like sort of a sneaky move, but we what I did was, so I'm at 385 and they're at 410, right? So I sent in the agreement at just around so 402 500.
Mhm.
Um and that's right in the middle.
Okay.
So I sent it with a message saying, "Hey, worked something out. This is the max offer that we can do for you. We're meeting in the middle. How's that sound?" Sent him a text, and very next day, document was signed. So,
Dude, so
yeah,
just like that, that's amazing how you sent it to him. I usually tell them over the phone, but that's so cool how you actually sent it to him so he could see it in black and white, and then you got the signature. So you pretty much did it remotely, and it took you about 4 hours. Is that
yeah,
correct? So
yeah,
so I know when this one closes, this one gets assigned and the deal closes and you get paid. If it went to my list, you would be making $43,000. So, which I think you're marketing it to other lists, and I'm pretty sure you're gonna probably make even more by doing it that way. But let's just say if it went to my list and you made $43,000 on that one, 4 hours, you're at like over 10 grand an hour. You're like at
yeah,
11 grand an hour. And this is something that like I try to explain to people, and sometimes I have a hard time reconciling in my head as the words are coming out, where I'm telling them, I've gotten my business to where I work an hour a day on the phones. I make 3, 4, 5 phone calls per day. And then once I lock into a deal, I spend about 3 or 4 hours on that deal. And I'm doing 2 to 3 deals per month, which means I'm putting in like 40 hours a month and making
yeah,
six figures. And that's what you're on track to do now.
yeah, yeah, and you know, that's really awesome. It's great having different outlets and trying to figure out, what would be the best case for my time
Right.
in the scenario that I'm in.
Right.
And it's great that I have you. I have like a buyer's list that I can refer to, and I'm sure I'll be getting a lot more deals down the road. And especially because I have a 45-day due diligence,
Right.
45 business day due diligence on this, right?
Right.
So I've got time, but a lot of the time sellers won't have time, right?
Yeah.
So if I need to offload the property quick, you know, use every avenue that you can.
Right. So what you're saying is because you have a long period where you can assign it because the closing is long and the conditional period is long, you have time to fish it around and get really top dollar. But sometimes you have a short window and you have to get it sold as quickly as possible. So you're lucky in this one where you have the time.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Like, a lot of the times, like from what I've seen from a friend that does this, he's setting at it at like 10 business days, right? So you literally have
Yeah.
like once that contract sign, um, it's
But
a
you know what that means?
yeah,
You know what that means though? You're getting paid.
you get your money faster. Yeah,
He's
yeah,
getting paid. A lot of wholesalers, they talk about quick closing, quick everything because they want to get paid faster, not because I see this a lot. Wholesalers pushing quick closings and quick everything so that the
yeah.
deal closes quicker and they get money faster. So that's proof right there. You can literally make 5 figures in a matter of 10 days doing this.
Yeah, and like even I like sort of talked about it with my buddy that does this as well, and he was like, "Geez, like, do you not want to get paid?" You know? And I'm like, "Well, the deal isn't so cut and dry here, right? So,
Right, right.
sometimes you just got to use your own judgment and intuition on these things, and I feel like it's gonna pay off that
I, I
going
think
that way."
because you so I know I don't mean to discredit anything. I think it's because I think you do an amazing job. I think it's because you're getting started. And when you're learning and you're kind of in the beginning phases of getting started at this, you like that extra time. But as you start doing deals and it starts to become like second nature, then you're going to be wishing that the timelines were shorter and shorter and shorter because you already know what you're taking this extra time to learn the process and really marketing and using it to position to find better buyers and stuff like that. It was what I think I understood of what you just said.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
I also I also saw this as sort of like almost like a negotiation uh strategy in a sense, because the seller is, I'm not going to say conditional, but he's trying to find a new home
Mhm.
uh out in another, more rural. He wants to get out of the city. So um we have a condition stating like if both buyer and seller agree, closing can be sooner, right?
Yes.
um I don't want to put the seller into a position of like, hey, it's time to close, contract time's up, let's go ahead and kick you out of your house, right? Where when you have no place to live. So um I think for this specific scenario, he's not a landlord that has a vacant property, right? He's still living in the property. So I even have some friends like that work in the moving industry. So I said, hey, like once we get this done, I could probably refer you to them, and they'll give you great work, right? So at the same time, I might be making a lot of money off of him, but I also want to be somewhat moral when it comes to his situation, right? Yeah.
Wholesaling is actually, if you think about it, it's the most heart-centered strategy in real estate because the only way we're able to get properties is by helping people. And you're not gonna get properties by lowballing people. If you just go lowball people, you're gonna get denied. They're not gonna be happy about it. But people want to sell their home, reach out to us because they have a problem they can solve. What would you say the problem that you solved for him in this one was?
Yeah. So you know, I know I can say like 99% like deep down that he chose me to be the buyer for a reason, right? He didn't want to go to any realtor. The
Yep,
when you walk inside, it's basically a hoarder house, right?
your house.
Um, it's definitely not something I'd want to live in,
Yep,
um, at its current condition.
yep,
And, you know, these sellers, they realize that,
yep,
and it can be I'm sure it can be embarrassing for them to
yep,
even have somebody walk through.
yep.
Um, so, you know, just being aware of that, and making sure that um they don't see you as sort of like um suspect about stuff going
Right.
on. They you earn a lot more of their trust, right? And the trust sort of flips to a signed contract, I think.
Exactly. So they're selling to you because they feel a connection with you. And when somebody's life is in a in a distressed state, they need somebody who can actually connect with them and hold their hand through the process and be there for them on a deeper level. And it comes down to a lot of times your commonality with the person. I've had people sell to me for 20,000 less. He had a $400,000 property around there. He sold to me for $20,000 less than his next offer because he liked me better than the next guy. He just didn't want to deal with the other guy that made an offer. So that validates what you're saying there. Absolutely.
Yeah, I was also definitely, dressed better. I have a background in sales.
Yep.
Um, I can be very tactful, but also very, soft spoken and empathetic towards the situations. So I feel like that helped a lot. And especially if you're gonna go belly to belly with sellers,
Right.
it's gonna help a lot.
So on that note, actually, a lot of times real estate agents do the hard work for us because I had one very similar to that where the guy called me and I didn't even have to negotiate much off his price, but um he had a hoarder house type situation and the real estate agents came down there and they weren't empathetic to him. Traditional real estate agents that are used to doing consumer focused transactions, not investor focused transactions, they don't even see the potential for investors to buy a property like this. So what happened in my case was the hoarder called a real estate agent out of the yellow pages. The real estate agent came down there in their nice BMW, dressed all like real estater-ish, and didn't empathize with the hoarder's situation, that the house was dilapidated and everything, and made it even worse. The real estate agent went there and told him, if I'm gonna list this, you gotta spend 200 grand to fix it. Whereas then he started looking for other solutions because he was in this even more distressed after the real estate agent, what based on what the real estate agent told him, she put him in a higher state of distress. And then once he called me, it was like a weight was lifted off his shoulders because all of a sudden he had a solution now in somebody who was empathetic to his situation. That was such a smart thing that you said there.
Yeah, so I mean, like when it comes to realtors, from their perspective, a dream listing would be a luxury home that's going
Right.
to go for top dollar, right? They want to be proud that they just scored a crazy luxury clean listing, right? Um, and I'm sure it would be embarrassing for them to even list properties like these. Like,
Exactly.
um, I've seen some on the market where it's properties like these and they just put one photo of the outside,
Right.
right? They
Right.
don't even want to, put their name on it, right? Or like, yeah, they're probably like screw a virtual walkthrough, right? We're not doing that. So yeah.
Let's wrap this up, this little piece, because I might share this with some people. But if you had to give yourself, you've done almost 2 deals now in a couple of weeks of getting active with this. What would be the one piece of advice you have to yourself, what before you were getting started?
Um, I'm gonna say, you know, you have to look inside yourself and really build up that confidence, right?
Mm.
That's it's super key. And have a grasp on just your mental focus and clarity, and just know that trusting the process, you're eventually gonna get somewhere. Um, and another thing is that I think it's best to get knowledgeable, you know. Uh it's it's going to be tough jumping into something that you don't know and getting out of your comfort zone,
Mhm.
but it's important to do so. Stay focused, get knowledgeable on the subject, um, and don't fall into analysis paralysis, right?
Right.
Because I definitely, I've known about wholesaling for a while now, and you know, you'd watch videos, you'd listen to podcasts, you try to over educate yourself, right?
Right.
But at the end of the day, if you don't put in the effort, if you don't put in the work, if you don't actually get hands on with it, you can't put any of that into action,
Right.
right? And um sometimes it's best just go gung ho with it, right? And then eventually something's going to stick, right?
Right. So I think what you're saying is take action.
Oh,
There
for sure.
there you have it, everybody. So
A
thank you,
little long-winded, but yeah.
thank you for sharing that, and everybody get out there and take action. I'll just cut it there like later, and I might take some clips from that. But
Yeah.
there's some pieces of that. Like if I was to email this out to my list, I could snip up some pieces of that that are more geared to how good of a deal it is and how distressed it is. Not about how much money you're going to make on it, but
Yeah.
send a little clip of that out to the list so that as they hear us talking about it, they're like, oh, okay, man, that sounds pretty. A hoarder house? Oh, a hoarder house? When they hear that, they're gonna be like,
Yeah.
yeah, like, well, I want to see that thing. So, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, like you got access to the drive and it's all there, right? So, um, hopefully, this buyer comes through, because I mean,
like
when
just
you
stop.
hook, when yeah.